protest site.
The court order covering a section of Argyle Street between Tung Choi and Portland Streets was published in the newspapers by the minibus company that applied for the order. It says no objects are allowed to be displayed on the roads as they disrupt traffic. It also forbids anyone from obstructing bailiffs while they are enforcing the order. The bailiffs may take reasonable and necessary steps to remove obstacles. And police officers may assist in their operation upon request. Anyone who does not comply with the order may be guilty of contempt of court. But the minibus company's legal representative Maggie Chan said the company would not post the order at the Mongkok sites for the time being. Another interim injunction order granted to taxi groups covers a section of Nathan Road. The solicitor representing the taxi groups, Phyllis Kwong, said the orders will be served on newspapers tomorrow at the earliest. Sporadic scuffles broke out in Mongkok in the early hours today. Here, Occupy marshals tried to calm the protesters down. There was a standoff with the police. Officers urged protesters to leave and remove obstacles on the roads. No injuries were reported. Lis Yun, TVB News.
Occupy Central co-organizer Chan King-man believes protesters should tweak their methods since their movement is causing social disruption. In a newspaper article, the Chinese university professor called on protesters to either end their occupation or at least shrink their protest area. Chan also asked them to consider retreating if pan-democratic lawmakers agree to resign from the Legislative Council to trigger a de facto referendum. But lawmaker Leung Kwok-hung dismissed Chan's comments as ineffective, citing his absence from the protest zones. Scholarism convener Joshua Wong dismissed Chan's suggestions as not being viable, considering bailiffs already dismantled one key protest zone outside CITIC Tower in Admiralty. The chief executive says there's no point in protesters continuing the Occupy movement, and the Secretary for Justice is denying the government is hiding behind the courts amid a political deadlock. Diane Till reports.
Speaking before the weekly Executive Council meeting, just as barricades were being removed from the CITIC Tower area, the chief executive said he believes it's clear that protesters have been breaking the law.
When it comes to the constitutional development, especially universal suffrage to elect a chief executive in 2017, is also very clear. So I don't see any point in resisting the court order.
Leung was also asked about a move by mainland authorities to deny protesters entry. This comes as members of the Federation of Students found out their home return permits had been voided when they tried to fly to Beijing on Saturday to talk to state leaders about political reform. Meanwhile, Secretary for Justice Rimsky-Yoon responded today to former Chief Justice Andrew Lee's comments that the Occupy protests are a political issue and cannot be resolved by the courts. Saying that he agrees, Yoon said the courts should not and would not interfere in political issues. Yoon also rejected accusations that the government is hiding behind the court amid the stalemate, saying that is a biased opinion and that anyone suggesting that may have other motives. Diane To, TVB News.
Overseas now, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has called a snap election for mid-December. Abe also announced a proposed sales tax rise set for next October will be delayed until 2017. This comes after data released yesterday showed Japan had slid into recession, largely because the first phase of the tax hike led to huge cutbacks in consumer spending. The tax rise from 5% to 8% in April was aimed at addressing Japan's huge debt, which is more than double the size of GDP. Abe returned to power in December of 2012, pledging to revive the economy. His Abenomics is based on hyper-easy monetary policy, government spending, and reform. Abe said he will dissolve Parliament on Friday. Australia and India have finalized a series of bilateral agreements that include a sweeping free trade pact. In addition to expanding economic ties, the two nations are also signaling greater cooperation on regional security.
Prime Minister of the Republic of India.
The agreements were finalized as Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi made a state visit to the Australian capital following the G20 summit in Brisbane. The deals include social security, cooperation against drug trafficking, prisoner transfers, and tourism. But regional security has also been high on the agenda.
Our region has seen huge progress on the foundation of peace and stability. India and Australia can play their part in it by expanding our security cooperation and deepening our international partnerships in the region.
Modi's remarks come a day after President Xi Jinping told the Australian Parliament that China is committed to peaceful development and resolving territorial disputes. India, like other regional neighbors, has had drawn-out territorial disputes with China.
Even when they have bitter disputes, we should collaborate more on maintaining maritime security. We should work together on the seas and collaborate in international forums.
Australia is emerging as a key source of energy for India, and the two nations are working on deals to secure nuclear energy as well as conventional fuels to help New Delhi overcome chronic shortages.
Yes, Australia has recently negotiated free trade agreements with Korea, Japan, and now China. But we're not resting on our laurels. We're not satisfied with just that.
Modi's visit was the first trip by an Indian Prime Minister in 28 years to one of Washington's closest allies in the Asia-Pacific. 4 people are dead after they were attacked while worshiping inside a synagogue in Jerusalem. Israeli police say 2 Palestinians stormed the synagogue with knives, axes, and guns before they were killed in a shootout with officers. It's the deadliest attack in Jerusalem in years and comes amid soaring tensions over a contested holy site. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his country will respond harshly to the attack. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has condemned the attack, but he also called for an end to Israeli provocations surrounding the sacred site. A French citizen has been identified as one of the militants in the latest Islamic State beheading video. With another American murdered, U.S. President Barack Obama wants to revisit policies governing efforts to free Americans held by militants. Sonia Artero reports.
Video of the beheading of American aid worker Peter Kassig and the mass beheadings of a group of Syrian military personnel has made for valuable intelligence. The grisly mass murders featured each of the knife-wielding extremists up close, allowing authorities to identify at least some of them. France's interior minister is certain one of them is a Frenchman from the Normandy region. They identified him as 22-year-old Maxime Oshad, who converted to Islam. Further scrutiny will determine if a second Frenchman is also involved. Intelligence experts in Britain are scrambling to determine if any of their citizens are among those militants. One British man is denying earlier reports that he recognized his son, who's a medical student, in the video. The British Prime Minister insists new anti-terrorism laws are blocking British citizens from joining the Islamic State.
As the House knows, these include new powers for police at ports to seize passports, to stop suspects from travelling, and to stop British nationals returning to the UK unless they do so on our terms.
An angry U.S. Secretary